In the last episode with Oliver, we heard about his journey into rugby and playing with the Cardiff Lions, how welcoming the club was to him and his friends, and why the Lions helped him find a love of rugby that might not otherwise have come about. In this episode, we talk about coming out, the reasons some players feel that they need to hide their sexuality in a rugby environment, lad culture, and mental health.
Just take us back on your journey a little bit more. So you said about coming out when you were sort of 18, 19 at college. When did you start to identify within yourself as a gay man, and how did that interact with your involvement in sport, whether it was PE, swimming?
So I definitely knew when I was in school, 100%, because I had a massive crush on one of my classmates. And he knows that now, and it's absolutely hilarious. And I didn't come out until college because I went to an all-boys school. And it was a performing arts school, which is quite funny. And yeah, I was with my mate Kitty, because that's the first time I had like girl mates, because it was a mixed. It was culinary school we was at, so it was a mixed. Loved it. And I was actually sitting in a Spoons in Victoria Station, and she knew. It was so obvious. And she was like, oh yeah, like one of the boys in our class is hot. And I was like, yeah, he is. And I remember it vividly. She was just like, yeah, I'm drinking a drink. And I went, Kate, I got something to tell you. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm gay. And she was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, oh, that's fine then. And then she was like, oh, you don't need to put like pressure on it. And I think I waited until I was in lockdown to come out to my parents, which was fine. And then from there, it is obvious for me, which is I way prefer. And going back to the sport aspect of it, I definitely would say I had a barrier, because I was like, when I was young and I was finding myself, I was in denial. I was like, oh, I'm not gay, oh, I'm not gay, I'm not gay, I'm not gay. I was like, no, not at all. And it was trying to fit in to a certain mold and a stereotype, and looking at people on Instagram being like, I should be like this, I should follow this path. And then I think it was when I reached college, seeing people from all over. So Kitty, she travelled from Brighton to come to London. One of my friends, Giuseppe, travelled from another part of London, and we had people from Kent, all over, and it was just nice seeing different people for a change. And I feel like at that age, that's when you definitely find yourself. And I remember there was a guy at college who was openly out, and it was like, oh, like that's good, like good for him. Knowing in myself that that's who I am as well. Yeah. And it was like, oh, we can like definitely, we'll get there someday.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because my friend Giuseppe, he's also gay, and we're both very flamboyant, you know. And I remember a conversation we had with all the girls, and they were like, oh, so like, what's your type? And he just turned around and was like, yeah, I think Shakira's my type. And it's just so funny, like, make it any more obvious. Yeah. Like, I think I said mine was like Megan Fox or something. I thought I was being smart, but obviously not. And it was when I came out, and I knew Giuseppe was.
But
I never was like, so are you coming out now? Like, no, at all, never. And one day we went for lunch, and he said to me, it was not as of recent, but he's recently come out of his shell, and he's found himself. Like I said, people find it later on. And he was like, I'm very appreciative of you, like watching your journey and how you're very confident within yourself and the support you give other people and stuff. And it was like, it was quite emotional, because I was reading the message, because he came out to me at dinner, and I was like, at lunch, sorry, and I was like, oh yeah, like, didn't make a fuss out of it. And he was like, it was obvious, wasn't it? And I was like, well, yeah, a little bit, like, come on, Giuseppe, like. And then it was an instant conversation, right? All right, then, so who's on the cards? And it's like, oh, wow. And then he shows the Instagram of some boy that he's talking to, and he's like, oh my God, that's nice. And then he was on the train going back, and he sent a message. He was like, oh my God, I'm so appreciative of you and how your own journey and just seeing you as a person grow and how comfortable you are within your sexuality made me want to come out. And just to have that from someone, it was really nice. It was lovely, because I felt good in myself that I've made someone comfortable to come out, and it's happened at uni with some boys, and some people who have been like, I'm not ready to come out, but I need to tell someone, and it's the same reception all the time. It's like, yeah, okay. Some boys are just confused, and I'm like, well, you're still young.
Yeah.
You're still finding out about yourself. I feel like uni is when everybody finds out about themselves. And people who don't go to uni, they still obviously learn and grow through experiences. But I definitely say uni is where you explore, shall I say, because you're away from your parents, you're away from your comfort zone. You're starting afresh. You're starting anew.
You can be who you want to be.
I've definitely grown since I've been at uni, 100%. Like even just looking at photos of myself and little things from the way I dress or the way I present myself or what I do in a day, definitely have grown.
Yeah.
And that is through experiences like the gay community in Cardiff and my friendship circle that I've made in Cardiff. I wouldn't change it for the world. So I met all my mates. So we're all gay, bar Tristan, he's bi, and we instantly hit it off. And that is my chosen family. They are my brothers. They are literally my rock. We're all living with each other next year, so that's gonna be fun. But I just love them so much, and definitely having that group of people there just makes life 10 times easier.
Yeah.
Way easier, because you've got people they're not trying to understand your situation. 9 times out of 10, they've been in that situation. Yeah. Whether that's chatting to a boy or something's happened or you want to do something or you're going on a date with someone. Because, yeah, it's great if you've, because a lot of gay guys, they'd go to their female mate and they'd be like, oh, what do I do? And yeah, girls can resonate, but you want to hear it from another voice as well. Yeah. That's what I found anyway. Yeah. And it was just lovely when we all got together and it's we all understand, we all do see each other. It's just lovely. It's really nice.
Do you think if you kind of rewound on that journey to when you were, before you had come out, if you hypothetically had been involved in rugby at that point, whether you'd kind of been channeled into it by your family or your school, or you just were interested in it enough to be involved, do you think that the rugby environment is one that, if you're in a conventional club, that you would have been able to come out to at the same time as you were in the rest of your life?
No, I don't think so. I think I would have stayed clear away from it, to be honest.
What do you think are the reasons for that?
Just the stigma again. Just the laddish culture, really. We're all boys, and then everyone has their laddish moments. But putting all a group of lads in one space, testosterone's flying out of the room, and it's oh my god, Jesus Christ. But from having a load of straight mates who play rugby, one of them did turn around and say to me, he's I just hate the rugby environment. And I was oh, why? And he's you're laughing and joking on the outside, but it's just because you want to fit in.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of men, especially male athletes, do struggle with mental health issues because of the environment of sport.
Yeah.
I definitely say it's definitely a stigma that needs to be broken. It's the thing is, it's because it's generational as well. A lot of these boys probably don't even want to play rugby. They're playing rugby because of the fact that they're being made to.
Yeah.
Because it's a legacy sort of thing. And I do think some they just don't want to do it, or they'll go and they just get burnt out from it. Obviously there's some that love it and they still do it. Crack on, you do you. But I do think a lot of them just don't want to be in that environment. Definitely hearing from Sam and Dan, they were just like, oh, it's just. It was really funny. He was like, this is the straightest changing room I've ever been in. And it's hilarious because obviously everyone just keeps themselves to themselves. Whereas some rugby changing rooms are spit. But
yeah, I think that's one of the funny things is not funny. But it kind of
no, I get what you mean.
is that actually rugby is an incredibly gay sport,
It is
an
very
incredibly gay
homoerotic.
environment.
Yeah, it is.
You are going out there to make as much physical contact with another man as you possibly can, and then you all go and share the same changing room, the same showers, and there are behaviours within a rugby social that if you were to transplant them into a bedroom with those two men, you would assume they were just two gay men having sex.
Yeah, literally. And it's crazy. Because it's like, it's not gay unless you've got your socks on or something silly like that.
Yeah,
and it's
all
like,
those silly things.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, well, yeah, make your mind up. It's like, what are you doing?
I've got this idea that at some point I'd quite like to do a PhD in rugby, private schools, and homosexuality, and like why the behaviours are what they are.
I definitely think it is because it's like it must be something to do with like childhood, because you're surrounded by so many men, and since coming to Cardiff, there have been a lot of closeted boys that have messaged me before, and it's like, that's your decision to like stay in the closet, but it is wild. It is insane, and it is sad because it's like, I know for a fact that you're just not happy with yourself.
Yeah,
you're just not happy with the person who you are, and like some of these guys, they're in relationships, and it's like, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting another person, and it's the form of accepting yourself, I'd say. I mean, who's the gay rugby player? What's his name? Gareth
Thomas.
Gareth Thomas. And listening to some of his stories, he didn't come out until he was like, did he come out when he retired? Or
yeah, it was after he retired.
Yeah. And there you go. That's just a prime example of, he probably had to deal with such adversity, hear comments, or even join in to homophobic bullying or comments, which are soul destroying within yourself.
Because I mean, I remember times where a joke would be made or a comment would be made and people would laugh and I wouldn't, because I was like, this feels like the little bit of kind of rebellion I can have and making a bit of a statement.
Yeah.
And then immediately someone sees that and they jump on it and you go, why are you not laughing? Are you gay?
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, this is not the environment that I want to start talking about my sexuality in. So you go, no.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, it's that pressure that I feel like a lot of them do have. And, there's that statistic, it's like 1 in 3 people are gay. And it's like, there are a lot of people that are gay and they just don't know about it. Or they do, and they hate themselves for it. Because they don't like it themselves. They don't know what they're going to be like with their family. It's not like a laddish thing to do or something like. And everyone, like I said, everyone has their journey, but it is wild. It is crazy. It is sad because it's not progressive. They're hurting themselves and others, and it's just like, how long can they continue that before they do themselves damage? And there's lovely charities like Movember, and people raise money for that, and people just think it's men are depressed and whatever, but why and what factors are playing into that? And it's like, we'll see what happens, but I know, and I've spoken to a lot of closeted people, and you can tell they're just not happy with themselves.
Yeah.
And then they'll go out and get pissed or whatever, and then sleep with men, and then be like, oh, I'm not gay, and all this stuff. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Whereas, I think a queerer world is a kind of world where one where not only are those closeted people that you're talking about, they're in an environment where they feel more able to come out, to be themselves, to be included, but also friends that you've mentioned who are straight, who have been in those environments, and ones that I was in when I thought that I was just straight, where they're like, this isn't actually an environment I enjoy being in. It improves it for, if sport is more inclusive, it improves it for everyone. I don't really see that there's anyone that loses out if sport is more inclusive.
No, not at all. I mean, do you know the Rainbow Lace charity sort of thing?
Yes.
So I wore them to my badminton shoes the first session, and one of the boys was like, "Oh, I like your laces." I was like, "Oh, thanks." He's like, "Oh, where'd you get them from?" I was like, "Oh, the SU, they used to give them out. They don't give them out anymore, which is quite bad." They were like, "Oh, how come you wear them?" I was like, "Oh, I'm gay." And they were just like, "Oh, okay." And, you know, you get those receptions and it's lovely, and then go into training and people are like, "Oh, you got your, like, laces on." I was like, "Yeah, you know." And, like, other sport organisations that do that, like, yeah, it's a rainbow and it's lovely and it's nice to see. But then also you get, like, the professional players or, like, players that would refuse to wear them. Okay, wow, like, what hurt is that going to do? And it's just, you're just trying to make an issue out of nothing, really. And it's quite embarrassing. And then to me, it's just like, well, like, what? You're supposed to be a role model to people. Like, people look up to you and you're just doing stuff like this. It's crazy to me. Like, it's wild. We did Freshers Fair here, and we had a lot of interest and just loads of people coming up. And a couple straight players would come up and they'd be like, "Oh, so what is this?" And we'd be like, "Oh, it's a gay inclusive team." Some of them would be like they're all with their lads, and it's like, oh God. You'd have a couple that you would see them looking from afar, seeing that they would come and be like, "Oh, no, I can't do this," and go away. You had a few that they definitely were interested in joining, but again, because we had a banner that was like, Wales First, gay inclusive, they see that and they're like, oh my God, they freak out. And then you get some that would just, oh my God, that's really good, that's lovely, you know, and it was nice. It's obviously going to get a mixed reception. Of course you are. A lot of it was definitely because they were with other lads. 100%. Yeah. 100%. It's definitely just the whole, like, macho, stereotypical, but I guarantee, like, even I spoke to some of my mates, and they would, like, one of my mates, he would stay over at mine, and he'd be like, "Oh, before I would come to uni, I would never have shared a bed with a gay guy." And it's just like, "Well, you can leave that," like, laughing, and he's like, "Oh, no. Like, it's just funny, and he's like, "Oh, you know, it's lovely," like, you know, so they learn about themselves, and then, and it's just, again, it's just love. It's just love wins, I suppose.
What would you, for you, does a positive, inclusive future look like for inclusion within rugby and within sport in general for the LGBTQIA plus community?
It's definitely breaking those stigmas, and I keep going back to it. It's the stigmas of the environment. It's the stigma of the type of boys that you're playing and who you're playing with. You know, when we're playing matches and it's on, like, Spond, and it's like, oh, we're playing against this team, it's a cup match, and it's like a straight team. A lot of the boys do shy away from it because they're not ready to play against a straight team. Yeah. And that's fine. That's their choice, and that's how comfortable they feel with playing rugby. I would definitely say, so we had a session with Cardiff Rugby, and they invited us to the Cardiff Arms Park, and we watched a game of rugby, and we had an interview with a lovely lady, I forgot her name, that's really annoying, but they were striving for, like, inclusivity within rugby, playing with a rainbow ball, the match against, so it's Cardiff Blues versus the Scarlet, literally giving us free tickets to go watch the match, and it was just lovely. It was really nice, and some of the players did speak to us. We had two of their players, their social media and one of their coaches come to train with us one evening. It was a training session before the match. Lovely boys, like, honestly, they were so lovely. And then we've trained at the Cardiff Arms Park as well. We have two of the coaches, and it's just really nice. It's like, oh wow, you're actually playing at the Cardiff Arms Park. We had drag rugby as well, so we played against all the queens of Cardiff, which was really, really fun, to be fair. And that was for Mind Camry, I believe. And we raised a lot of money for that, and that was just bringing, again, a community together, which is an annual event. And that was, we had a lot of the drag queens from Mary's, who are our sponsors, our main sponsor, and it was lovely. It was just really nice to see. And there were like 2 of the drag queens, and Tom was like, "Oh, do you want to come to training?" Because they were off, they were rapid, and they were like, "Oh God, yeah, that sounds quite fun." And I spoke to one of them. I was out on Saturday, bumped into him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I actually think I might join in January." So it's lovely to see that's already happening, and it's that step, and people want to join, and people coming to watch that, and you getting messages on Instagram being like, "This is amazing." You feel like you're doing something for a community that has a lot of healing to do within past events that have happened, and it's just lovely to see that. And I think AOTV did a video, and it was a lovely video to watch back, and it was just people just speaking their minds about the match, and it was really, really nice to see, and it was just lovely that everybody enjoyed themselves, and that is going to continue on and again and again and again and again. And I would do it until I leave the Lions, and I don't see myself leaving anytime soon. So
Brilliant.
So yeah, they've got to put up with me for, for a while yet. So
it sounds like they're probably scoring more tries because of having you along. So, well, thank you very much for joining us on the Queer Voices Sports Podcast, Oliver, and for telling us about the Lions and your journey. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have lots of people that will be reaching out as a result to try and get involved with the club, or who've had similar experiences to you.
Yeah, no, definitely. So,
thank you very much.
Thank you.